St. Lucia, this is Open Mic, and we are back to the third segment of our program. And at this point in time, I want to focus on the agricultural side of St. Lucia. And I had discussions some time ago with Mary concerning what is going on, and she's abreast of what is going on. I'll ask her to highlight the situation.
Well, I think next to tourism is agriculture, right? This is what we're supposed to be looking at. And we have, of course, allowed the banana industry to get to the point where we're not making much money in bananas. But when we were growing bananas, we also saw a lot of production, coconut production, where the fertilizer that went into helping the bananas to grow was also helping coconuts and other crops to grow, right? So while I was at the Ministry of Commerce, we were looking at I was part of the board. I was on the board of the Coconut Growers Association.
Okay.
And it got to the point where, because they had to import a lot of the copra or the raw materials from Guyana or Trinidad, they figured it was not very productive to continue with the plant, with the oil factory, with the Magic Coconut Oil Factory in Soufrière. But I don't think that was a very good decision, because you're looking at a factory that was employing people in an area where there is little or nothing else other than the tourists when they come in, and you know these dollars don't really redound to the benefit of the man on the ground. Yeah. So selling copra was another agricultural enterprise that we had that was making money. We were making soap out of it, we were making oil, and then they started those other little byproducts from the coconut
because we
oil.
used to do the soap and all that.
Right. Now, they have found out now that coconut oil is one of the most nutritious oils, one of the most healthy oils to eat in terms of its cholesterol level and so on and so forth. So I think that it is an area that we need to revisit. Also, when it comes to technical assistance, there is no shortage of that from friendly governments. And we were getting that from governments in Central America and so on and so forth. So I think that is something that they ought not to have allowed to go down the tubes. That factory, we need that factory. We need to go back to producing coconut oil. And we can't do it, although now I see that people are selling the jelly, the coconut jelly. Yeah. But if you are going to have an oil factory, you have to put things in place so that eventually you will be able to produce your own raw materials on island. So you would have to have a mechanism to control how much coconut goes into selling as jelly and what you keep to go into your coconut, your oil factory, right? We also, when you look at our food import bill, we have to try to reduce on the amount of things that we import that we can grow locally. Everybody was lamenting how our mangoes this year were scattered everywhere on the road, the ripe mangoes. We have mangoes, we have so many mango trees, and we do nothing with the mangoes. At one time we used to ship them to Barbados, but that stopped. We have to look at...
Do you know why it was stopped, Mary? Because they said there was a certain
bug or something
in the seed.
The seed.
But you know, to me, with all the technology they have, that should have been addressed.
Research and technology, And they could have done something about that. But that doesn't mean that the mangoes going elsewhere or from other countries do not have that same bug. We eat in the mangoes.
I mean, I was in New York 2 weeks ago. One mango is $3.
There you go. And you should have seen it this year. Lots and lots of mangoes on the road this year. And we lament that every year it happens and we do nothing about it. So the talk must translate into action. Yes. We have to start looking at having our young people go into areas such as post-harvest technology, food processing, so that we can create those industries, and by so doing we will also be creating employment. We will be reducing on our food import bill, and our people will be working in areas where they can actually make money. And our crops will also go into feeding ourselves here in St. Lucia. We have the breadfruit, for instance. We have never looked at the breadfruit for export. Yeah. And now they're saying that is the fruit that can reduce on hunger and poverty. So why don't we, and the breadfruit tree doesn't take much to grow a breadfruit tree, and it grows up in the air. It takes up top space, but in terms of bottom space, you can still diversify, mix the crops, produce tomatoes and so on and so forth in between your bananas and so on.
You know, I'll tell you something, Mary. How many children, for instance, will be leaving school this year?
Oh, thousands.
Okay. Now, there are children, a lot of them are bright. I'm not saying all are bright, but there's some of them bright. They have these academics. But when they go home, what are they going to do? There's no income. I'm saying very simple. I've said it time and time again. At the schools, if they don't have the space, it is so easy. I, for one, would love to finance, say, the cost of a tent, of a well-ventilated tent for 35, 40 children, and offer them that two things. When school is over at 3 o'clock, instead of going and gallivanting and getting into town to gamble and so forth, they are good technicians in St. Lucia, whether it's an agriculturist, a plumber, an electrician,
yeah.
or IT man, to come in and say, okay, fine, we're going to offer a little course for 2 hours every day. Because once you get accustomed to using something, there's a start in life, and these children, they can make $1 because there are other areas, there are other businesses where we can use them. But if I want to bring in somebody there who's completely green, they wouldn't know where to start. A man can just join 2 wires and all of a sudden he can help. And they could do part-time jobs.
Teach them a skill.
Yeah. Because I've said it over and over, for years in France you had what you call military service, which has nothing to do with the war. People between ages of 18 and 20 were bound to go to military service for 2 years to learn a trade. They would pick something that they like, and there were people who can do it. And I'm telling you, there are professors, or not countries, that will actually offer people to come and do those things and help our people, because they have to be made different. I mean, you take a person like Junior today. He's a self-made man. He does all the work here, and the guy is incredible. So you have people like that with a skill, they're born with certain skills, and all they want is something to help them along and to find their way in life, Yeah. What is your take on a situation like that?
Well, I think that's a good idea. I know sometimes they have makeshift classrooms.
Yes.
That is similar to what you're talking about, where they have an addition, a
Right.
classroom out there, and you can,
Yeah.
get help for the kids instead of going home like you're saying. You probably would have to feed them also a little snack and so on. And it would be a good place for them to hang
You know
out.
what was heartbreaking? Last night on the news, I was watching, and they were talking about the comprehensive school. A guy, because I think some guy who just passed away, who got a stroke, and he was done a lot of work at the comprehensive school.
Mr. Branch, is it?
Yes, right,
Oh, okay.
Branch.
He taught me, actually.
Yeah. And you know what the person said? When that comprehensive school was started, there were all kind of tools and so forth as a vocational school on the side. All these things have disappeared. They said certain teachers took away a screwdriver, they never brought it back. You see, unless we can instill the discipline from on top to understand that, there is money to be made in technicians doing jobs. It is difficult to get good electricians, IT people, air conditioning people, and it's available, So in one sense, what do we have to do? We have to have a makeshift system where, as business people, we suffer because we don't get the right people to do those things. And
well, I don't know about saying that about the comprehensive school. When the comprehensive school started, I was there, and they were giving plumbing, woodwork,
correct,
machinery, crochet, cooking. They were doing all these other things that the secondary schools did not have, and they were the rooms
and
were
it was well
equipped.
utilized.
It was plumbing. Imagine, I was doing plumbing, and I think I was the top of my plumbing class.
Correct.
And I remember going home one day and with my top grade from plumbing and so on, and my mom looked at it and she says, "Plumbing? You are a girl, you're going to do plumbing? Not in my house. You better change that right away."
Imagine
you're not going to be fixing nobody's toilet and stuff, because her idea of what plumbing was.
Right.
But now you're looking at, technology and everything. That is not what it is about.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that school was one of the best schools that they had on island at the time when they just introduced it. I do not know what's going on right now, but it was one of the best.
Until last night, I heard it being discussed, and they said all that stuff has disappeared.
Well, I would hate to
and
think
that's
so,
wrong, you know.
Yeah.
So we're actually going backwards instead of going forward.
Yeah. Well,
for instance, also we take the step workers. I've repeatedly said there's nothing wrong with the step workers. If the step workers were taken and given to the banana farmers, and they could push the banana, because I'm not a farmer, but I've always been told that people pay for 8 hours and they get 4 hours work. So if they can, if the government, I want to keep those people employed, which I don't have a problem with, at least let them do something productive. When you talk of the side of the road, it's so easy to get a piece of equipment to clean the side of a road and let the people do the actual work, and they will learn something about the agricultural side to push the business.
Well, that's why they only work a few days, and this is what we are lamenting, that people eat every day of the year and so on and so forth.
Yes.
When you employ somebody just for a few days, that is not good enough.
Yes.
We're saying they have to improve on that type of program.
Yes.
And every time government goes, they change it, they rename it. But STEP is not a new program.
Yeah.
It is a program that has taken different shapes and forms depending on which administration is
Yes.
running the program.
Got you.
So it is not a new thing, but the type of the way it is designed right now, structured, we're saying it is not sustainable, and that's what people must understand. We're not saying get rid of STEP.
Yeah.
We're saying that STEP is not sustainable the way that it is structured right
Yeah.
now, and we need to see it more structured,
Sure.
properly structured,
Yeah.
and more sustainable.
Yeah. And you see, this is the problem that we have today, in that when governments are in power, you know, I've always insisted, a government is in power for 5 years, we shouldn't be fighting. We should be working together and listening, because no man is an island. You in power, I'm successful in one part of business, Mr. X is successful in that. We need to put these things together to make it palatable so that the country can move forward, because if you fight for 5 years, that's 5 years lost
Yeah.
of whatever we have
The
to
type
do.
of culture we have is one that is very oppressive, and we can be doing a lot more with the monies that we are spending today, especially for to empower the youth to create employment.
Yeah.
There are a lot of areas we can create employment in St. Lucia, and I have no doubt that if we get into office, Mr. Chastney, this is not a brag,
Yeah.
that with somebody like myself on board, with Alan and
Yes.
Guy, people with vision,
Yes.
that we will be able to take this country to the next level.
That's a very important part. We have just come to the end of the third segment of our program. St. Lucia will be right back.